boy, our people who want to worry about world's problems, they are really great in rationalizing futility. You see them in counterculture restaurants, and they're sitting around tables. They have such brilliant diagnosis of the overwhelming, irresistible, dominant, persistent, eternal concentration of brutal power in the world, and how it impacts all kinds of constituencies, all the damage and stuff. And they're at dessert. They're at dessert. They finished the meal. The dessert is coming. And they still haven't focused on the counterattack, the remedies, the resistance.
At that point, certain questions come to mind.
So how can we actually make a difference when we see all these problems around us?
How does change happen?
Man has the habit of hitting his head against the wall until the wall breaks. And then when the wall breaks, then there's a change in public policy.
Let's go in there and crack some heads!
But we don't have to go that route.
If we want to look at what precedes mass structural change, we're really looking at education, cultural preparation, which is also about creating a culture of resistance, a culture of critical thinking. Social change strategy starts with looking at questions of power.
Where does the power of your opponent come from?
What does the system that we live in rest upon? What are its bases of support, for instance? If we look at, say, our government, our corporations, the war machine, they didn't just come out of nowhere.
Your rulers, your presidents, your dictators, your kings are not born with all that power. It's not theirs. It comes from outside of themselves.
They're supported by us, they're supported by tax dollars.
It comes from the society. It therefore has sources, and you can identify those sources. And such as legitimacy, moral authority.
Really, social change is about creating a crisis of legitimacy.
Whether it's the divine right of kings, or this so-and-so was elected.
So if we're looking at strategy, we need to look at those and then consider how we might undermine their support.
One of the things that I think history teaches us very abundantly is it's social movements that actually make a difference.
Citizens getting together brought about the end of slavery, the emancipation of women, the end of child labor, and of the 7-day work week. There's the civil rights movement, the anti-Vietnam War movement.
Very sad.
Yeah.
I was shocked. I didn't think that my chimps could ever behave in such a brutal way. And then I realized, well, it kind of makes sense because they are so close to us. And it does really seem that if you go back 5 million years or so, you find a common ancestor that presumably had these aggressive instincts on the one hand and loving and compassionate traits on the other.
Yeah.
And so if you imagine that we've inherited both of these from our ancient primate past, then does that mean that we're inevitably always going to be aggressive, or do you think that we have enough ability, if we will use it, to decide, okay, I hate this aggressive side, I'm going to work really hard to develop the compassionate and loving side?